Hi, I'm Tom Sosov, CEO and founder of Lost Dog, and you're watching Taking Stock.
Let's rock and roll, folks. On this Friday edition of Taking Stock, the major market indexes are expected to finish in negative territory, with the S&P 500 currently down 0.6%. West Texas and Brent, the crude benchmarks, both moving up as stocks move down. Also at this hour, utilities, staples, and energy. Those are your three strongest performing sectors in the S&P 500, and your S&P laggards at this hour: materials, telecom, as well as technology shares. Welcome to the show. You're watching Taking Stock. I'm your host on this Friday, J.D. Durkin, mere moments away from the ringing of the iconic closing bell down here on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and the crowd goes wild on this Friday. It's all you, Todd. That's the most fun part of my day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Adobe shares in focus down 6% after announcing a CEO transition. Meta shares down 4% in the last hour over concerns of a new AI model, maybe having some disappointing results. We also got big news out of D.C., a federal judge blocking subpoenas issued to the Federal Reserve as part of that criminal investigation into soon-to-be outgoing chairman Jerome Powell. A jam-packed edition of Taking Stock. Our good friend, the great Phil Rosen's on deck. He'll join us right after the bell for his take on today's tape and much more. Today is National Dermatologist Day. Don't forget your SPF. They're here to do the honors. We'll pick up the rest of the Taking Stock broadcast right after the bell. Time now for the close. Gotta hit the sounding block with some authority, and on this National Dermatologist Day, take a little bit of a personal note from a melanoma survivor. Do not forget your SPF. It is great to have groups like this. It's not even Skin Cancer Awareness Month. That's the month of May, but we do honor National Dermatologist Day on March 13th. The team from Colgate-Palmolive here to do the honors. Your final tale of the tape on this Friday the 13th, S&P 500. Very spooky, down 0.6%. The Dow down 0.25%. The NYSE Composite Index down 0.3, and the small caps down almost 0.4. The 10-year Treasury yield, very stubborn, up for a fourth consecutive day, now to its highest level, going back to early February. And how about the dollar continuing to quietly strengthen? The Dixie up for a fourth day, hitting 100 for the first time since November 21st. Gold and silver, the precious and industrial metals, both taking a bit of a breather on this Friday, and the crypto majors in positive territory, not a big dramatic move. Bitcoin holding on to 71,000 or so. Let's bring in the great Phil Rosen. He is the co-founder of Opening Bell Daily. He is host of Full Signal, and he's also my friend, most importantly. Thank you for being here, bud. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, JD.
So, listen, we deal with chop, we deal with volatility. It doesn't feel as if we are 4% or so off of all-time highs, but Phil, as we take a look up, it's another red day as oil's moved higher, but we're not that far off from all-time highs. What are you seeing in the markets?
Pretty much everything that the stock market has had thrown at it, all the bearish sentiment, the war, the oil prices, the inflation shocks, none of this has really derailed the bull market. As you said, 4% within record highs. Earnings are still pretty solid, and expectations for earnings continue to be pretty solid. I don't know what it's going to take to throw a wrench in this bull market, but pretty much nothing has been able to do that yet.
Yeah, I might be oversimplifying, but it seems at least the tale of the tape this week, an inverse relationship between crude oil prices and stocks. On a day like today, West Texas up to 98 a barrel, Brent up to 103 a barrel. As those indicators have moved up, we've had equities fall. Is that a fair read kind of how things have played out the last few days?
In the near term, yes, and there is so much uncertainty about the war in Iran, and a lot of people are nervous and fearful about it. However, if you go back for 40 years, there's been 8 oil shocks similar to this, where oil prices have gone up 20% over a 48-hour period. We've seen that this week, and a year later, in 7 of those 8 times, stocks are up 24% over 12 months. Yeah. So that's a pretty good hit rate, 7 of 8 times positive. I feel good about where the bull market is, where the bull market is going. I don't expect these oil shocks to be that lasting of an impact. It's going to be a lot of near-term chop, and there's a lot of fears, a lot of uncertainty, but none of that is going to be enough, is what I think, to really detract the bulls from what's ahead.
And speaking of fears and uncertainty and concerns, I want to get your take on private credit, because although the private credit majors, actually, ironically, they're one of the few sectors of stocks that are actually finishing the day in positive territory. That's not been the tail of the tape over the last month. Apollo down 23% month to date. Blue Owl down 32%. KKR down 19% month to date. Doesn't appear overall as if we're quite out of the woods just yet, Phil.
These are terrible numbers, right?
Yeah.
And all of this is coming from worries in the private credit space. I'm not a private credit guy, frankly, but I'm looking at what the financial sector is telling us right now. It's the worst performing sector in the S&P 500 this year so far, and even the big banks like JP Morgan, they've had some tremors and fears bubbling around with them. And the thing about private credit is it's sort of been coming out like a boogeyman right now. And we don't know what's under the hood yet. We could see some cracks continuing to form, but all of this, and still the bull market has not broken down or collapsed. So that's just one more thing in this great wall of worry with the war, with geopolitics, with midterm election uncertainty, all of this, and yet 4% within record highs.
Yeah.
This is a crazy time.
Yeah, the S&P 500 averages 5% pullbacks a year. We kind of hit the 5% drawdown level earlier this week, but then we've had a couple sessions in positive territory, so now we're closer to 4, ironically. Speaking of pressure, financials, both XLF, the weighted side of things, and equal weight continues to not just underperform the broader market, it's the worst performing sector. What are you seeing out of financials? Although also, ironically, some of the big banks finishing this particular Friday in the green.
Yeah, you know, this is interesting that the financials are not part of the great rotation that we've seen to start the year, right? We've had big tech was such a winner the last few years. This year, the Mag 7 have really lagged, and the equal weight S&P 500 has outperformed the market cap weight because of that tech lag, and yet financials have been like the one corner of the market that haven't really picked up. If anything, they're dragging everything else down. I don't know what this private credit thing is, how it's going to resolve itself,
Sure.
But that's really the big headwind right now.
Phil Rosen, co-founder of Opening Bell Daily, host of Full Signal, and my very good friend, my man. Have yourself a terrific weekend. Thank you for being here as always.
Thank you.
Take good care. Skylar, take your mic. You and I will head this way. Todd, we're going to bring you the latest poly market odds. You got a fun one here on tap. The odds for Sunday's Oscars telecast. We're going to run through some of your favorite categories. These are at least expectations for poly market participants. Best Picture at 76% odds. One battle after another. Not a big surprise there. Best Director Paul Thomas Anderson at 93% odds. He's, of course, also director of One Battle After Another. Best Actor. This one's interesting. For months it had been expected to go in Timothée Chalamet's way. Now Michael B. Jordan at Sinners at 57% odds. Kind of a coin flip as to which of those gentlemen get that nod. Best Actress Jessie Buckley for Buckley, excuse me. I have not seen Hamnet. I'm hoping to watch it this weekend. 96% odds she takes home the trophy. And Best Original Screenplay, Ryan Coogler, the great writer and director of Sinners at 95%. The 98th Annual Academy Awards will be broadcast this Sunday night at 7 o'clock, hosted by the great Conan O'Brien. Time now to take a quick look at two NYSE notables. How about the team from Boeing up 2.5%? Citi analyst reiterating the stock as a buy, saying investors should buy recent weakness. Shares of Boeing down almost 20% off their mid-January levels, but having a nice pop of shares, 2.5% on this Friday. Todd, how about a look here at Royal Caribbean Group? This is ticker symbol RCL, up 2.2%. One of the stronger names in the S&P 500 today, despite a strong recent downtrend, as oil prices have moved higher given the conflict in the Middle East. We've seen cruise lines fall down 2% on the year. The average one-year price target sits at $368 a share, upside potential of another 34% or so relative to these current levels. Earlier this week, FinTech TV's very own lead anchor, Remy Blair, caught up with Rob Haddock of Dragonfly. They discussed stablecoins, they discussed artificial intelligence, and so much more. Take a look.
Well, Bitcoin has rebounded off 2026 lows, but the broader digital asset market is still navigating a complex landscape. And after months of deleveraging, the space is stabilizing but remains constrained by macro forces, with liquidity expectations taking center stage in the absence of large derivative players. But beneath the surface, the industry is undergoing what some insiders may call a massive meta shift, while the focus is hurtling away from a rebellious Web3 utopia and straight toward Wall Street, replacing native app tokens with RWAs. Meanwhile, Dragonfly Capital recently closing a massive $650 million fourth fund. Well, joining me live at the New York Stock Exchange is Rob Haddock, general partner at global crypto investment firm Dragonfly. Rob, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.
What are you focused on over at Dragonfly?
So we're really focused on the things that we kind of know are working, right? So there's been a lot of, we're venture capitalists. So we have to think about, what happens in 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, right? I think there was, I think it was Naval who once said that what venture capitalists do on the weekend is what, kind of the normal person will be doing on the weekend in 5 or 10 years, right? So that's what we try to do. So there's a lot of conversation right now about, okay, well, what is the future of AI? How does AI interact with blockchains? Is there things where, AI agents are going to be doing a lot of work for us, and will they be needing to use blockchains for payments? We continue to be very, very focused on stablecoins broadly. You mentioned a portfolio company of ours called Rain.
Yes.
Rain is powering basically stablecoin settlement directly with Visa. Visa's kind of stood up this business where they're doing, instead of using an issuer bank, they're doing direct settlement with an issuer in stablecoins. That business has grown from basically not existent a year ago to now doing $6 billion annualized, and it's growing incredibly quickly. Rain, our portfolio company, is powering the vast majority of that, and we're starting to see them now do things on the acquiring side of the payment stack as well. And then things like prediction markets. We're still very focused on decentralized finance. I think that's going to play a big role in the future. The Hyperliquid, I think there's been a lot of talk about recently, but Hyperliquid is doing tremendous amounts of volume, call it $6 to $10 billion a day, and it's trading, 24/7, obviously, and so that allows for, kind of these exposures over the weekend. And in fact, talking back about RWAs, we're also seeing Hyperliquid start to do, billions of dollars a day in like commodity kind of derivatives and other types of real-world asset derivatives. And so we're seeing these, these two places converge, this real-world institutional crypto and DeFi and stablecoins and tokenization converge. And that's I think, really interesting about what the future of finance looks like and how we can think through having better financial rails than we have today.
Yeah, so those are a lot of things that we're also paying attention to here, and some of the sums that you mentioned are pretty significant. So I do want to get your take on what we're seeing in artificial intelligence. We all know that AI is going to bring massive change across all industries, but in your space, what are you looking at in particular with AI?
So it's very, very early today. And there's been a lot of talk about crypto or blockchains and AI intersecting for a while. It's very clear that we're not there yet, but we're starting to see some signs of life in things like decentralized inference, so ways to coordinate inference across a bunch of different counterparties that is not through a centralized intermediary, right? There's a business that Eric Voorhees, who's kind of a crypto OG, started called VVV, that is the name of the token, but they're allowing you to get access to a bunch of different models, both kind of centralized models like you and I know of, the Claudes and Opus and OpenAIs, and also kind of the long tail of models. It allows more user choice, right? And a lot of this is about allowing users to have more control over in models that they interact with or the ways that they interact with AI. We're seeing signs of life there a little bit. And then there's things like X402, which has come out of Coinbase, which is trying to allow for stablecoin payments with agents. Very early days. I think we're going to see a lot more to come over the next couple of years. I think AI more broadly, it's just, who kind of knows right now what the world will look like in 5 years.
Well, Rob, always great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange, and thank you so much for sharing all of your insights as well as your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. Peter Bain joins us now via Zoom. Peter is the Chief Marketing Officer at Blockstream. Peter, a very happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining us here on Taking Stock. Talk to me first and foremost, Peter, what is Blockstream's role as you see it in the broader Bitcoin ecosystem?
Well, thanks for having me, JD. Blockstream is an infrastructure company, and we're focused on strengthening and expanding the Bitcoin network. We build technologies that support scalability, security, accessibility for both institutions and consumers. As a part of that work, we developed the first Bitcoin-based sidechain, the Liquid Network, and we've developed institutional-grade custody, tokenization, smart contracting, and settlement products for the financial industry.
Peter, I want to get your take on broader Bitcoin price action. Excuse me. It is currently low, 42, 43% off those early October highs. We know that story. As of this afternoon, holding on more or less to the 71,000 level. What do you see as being the biggest catalysts driving the price action, albeit a lot of sideways price action, Peter?
Correct. Yeah, Bitcoin has always been very volatile in the short term, but the long-term trend has been driven by adoption. And Bitcoin started out as a speculative trade, then became part of this broader risk-on macro environment. And increasingly, we're seeing investors begin to see it as a quality asset during uncertain times. I think we're quite pleased to see this price support happening above 62, and I think that bodes really, really well for the future.
How do you see the balance right now between retail and institutional participation in Bitcoin? How do you define it now, and how do you see it continuing to evolve?
Yeah, well, we continue to advocate for the individual holding Bitcoin in self-custody. This is core to the principles of the ecosystem, the ethos of Bitcoin. And we support it with products like the Blockstream app and the Blockstream Jade hardware wallet. That being said, we're seeing growing institutional interest that goes well beyond simple asset exposure. Institutions are exploring Bitcoin as an infrastructure, custody products, financial products, settlement rails, and integration into the broader financial system.
I want to get your take on quantum computing. We talk a lot about quantum stocks, Rigetti, et cetera. Its potential implications specifically for cryptography. Do you think those concerns have had any impact so far on investor sentiment, and if not, might they?
Yeah, well, while the fear is real, I think the practical reality is that we are decades and potentially multiple decades away from quantum systems being able to break the current cryptography standards. So key players in the industry really view this as a much longer term challenge rather than an immediate threat. That being said, quantum resilience is an important topic. At Blockstream, we have one of the premier research departments. In fact, we've recently released quantum resistant signatures on the Liquid network. So while there's work to be done, I'm very, very optimistic that the risk is largely overblown.
Peter Bain, Chief Marketing Officer at Blockstream, here to make the case. Come back on the broadcast anytime, Peter. Great to have you. We'll now move along here on the trading floor of the NYSE. We'll bring you the latest headlines in the world of fintech, crypto, and AI. First up at this hour, Bitcoin up 1%, holding on to 71,000 or so. Ethereum up 1.5%. Solana, the best performing of the crypto majors, up 2.8%. Next up at this hour, a federal judge is granting Amazon a preliminary injunction against Perplexity, blocking its AI shopping agent from accessing password-protected parts of Amazon's site. This as retailers brace for a new wave of AI-driven shopping tools. And finally, at this hour, new analysis from workforce software firm ActiveTrack finds AI may be making work even more intense as time saved by the technology is quickly filled with even more tasks. Good to know I'm not alone in being overwhelmed with the state of large language models. Don't go anywhere. Much more on this Friday edition of Taking Stock, live from the big board, coming up right after this. Welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching Taking Stock live from the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Time now, what's probably one of the coolest parts, maybe the coolest part of the show we've done all week. My special thanks to you both. Alan Gilpin, CEO of World Rugby, and Naya Tapper, Olympic bronze medalist and player in HSBC Sevens. Great to have both of you being here. Thanks a lot for joining us at the New York Stock Exchange.
Great to be here. Thank you. Really exciting.
Alan, let me kick things off with you. Why is New York the right move for the highly anticipated HSBC 7 Series right now?
Oh, look, one of the sporting capitals of the world. What a great city to have sevens in. Sevens, the perfect fit, you know, really high octane, great version of our sport. You know, we're on the build up to LA 28 Olympics, which Naya can talk lots about, and we're really excited to be here.
Yeah, Naya, then let's ask you all about it. For a U.S. audience who might be relatively new to the sport, it is increasing in popularity. What is the energy of a sevens tournament? What can fans, even first-time fans, begin to expect?
The energy of a sevens tournament is something you'll never forget and something you definitely want to experience. They're still selling tickets, so make sure that you go and get that now. We have games tomorrow and Sunday, and for this tournament, they'll be announcing who's the winner for this regular series season as well as the season as a whole.
That's amazing. Yeah. Are you playing? You personally, are you playing tomorrow or Sunday?
I am not. I'm retired, but I will
That's
be cheering like I'm playing.
Okay, that's amazing. Alan, let me get your take. Talk to me about some of the key ways that HSBC is really the perfect partner to make this a reality and bring this unrivaled, really exciting sports experience directly to fans.
Yeah, look, HSBC have been a partner for Rugby Sevens for 20 plus years. We play sevens all over the world in brilliant places like Hong Kong, Dubai, now New York, you know, literally every continent of the world. So HSBC are in all of those places. They see us as a sport that connects their customers around the world, and they help us connect with the world. So they've been a great partner. They're really excited about New York like we are.
Yeah, Naya, from your perspective, when you talk with fans who want to learn more about the sport, talk to me about your own background, your own journey as an incredible athlete in the sport, and what do you most want people to know who might be only getting introduced to the amazing sport of rugby really for the first time?
I want them to know that the fans are one of the most incredible people that you'll meet. So even if you don't know much about it, we'll make sure that you have a good time and that when you leave, you know something, at least how to score a try.
That's amazing. I want to stick with you for the next question. Yeah. Can you talk to me a bit about your own personal journey? How were you first introduced to the sport?
Yeah, so I picked up rugby in college at UNC Chapel Hill, played for a couple years, moved out to Chula Vista, had an 8-year career on the 15s and 7s side. Amazing accomplishments, was able to travel the world. Now retired, but grateful for everything I experienced in the sport. If you haven't played rugby, try it at least once.
I gotta be honest, I was a college hockey player. I've never played rugby, but I'm so excited to learn and watch. Yeah, that's what I've always heard. Yeah. It's not that you can maybe figure it out. Alan, something a fan will experience at the Sevens event you think they will not ever get anywhere else in the world of sports.
Look, it's a great party. You get fans in fancy dress at Sevens events all over the world, crazy outfits, lots of music, and the action on the field, as Naya said, is like something you don't see in other sports. Physical, super fast, non-stop action, match after match for a whole weekend. So it's a really great weekend of sport.
That's amazing. I know you're at the Sports Illustrated venue out in Harrison, New Jersey, right outside of Newark, my home county of Essex County. Cannot wait to check out all the action this weekend and beyond. My special thanks to both of you. Thanks for joining us here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Come back anytime. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Taking Stock coming up after this. Welcome back to the show. Time for a few headlines in the world of startups, raises, and rounds you need for your Friday afternoon to send you into the sweet weekend ahead. First up, Netflix reportedly paying as much as $600 million for Interpositive. It is the AI filmmaking startup founded by the one and only Ben Affleck as the streaming giant moves to bring more AI tools in-house to speed up production, as well as, of course, to cut costs. Next up, Meta set to acquire Moltbook, a social network built for AI agents, bringing its founders directly into the company's Superintelligence Labs as big tech races to develop autonomous AI systems. And finally, on your Friday, AI infrastructure startup Nscale raising $2 billion in fresh new funding, valuing the company at more than $14.5 billion US, with backing from investors like NVIDIA, Dell, and Nokia as demand for AI data centers continues to surge. Money 2020's very own Scarlett Sieber is now back to explain the ways that fintech companies actually make money. Take a look.
Welcome back. I am Scarlett Sieber with Money 2020, and this is how fintech companies actually make money. Let's talk about the fintech that quietly powers half of your subscriptions. GoCardless is the global bank-to-bank payment network behind subscriptions, invoices, memberships, and all the recurring charges you meant to cancel, but somehow never did. Credit cards are great until they aren't. Expirations, declines, mismatched billing addresses, all results in chaos. Direct debit is the opposite of chaos. GoCardless packages global direct debit, instant bank payments, and intelligent retries into one API so businesses get predictable cash flow and customers get one less reason to call support. So how does GoCardless actually make that cash? First, per transaction fees for direct debit and instant bank payments. Second, success-based pricing where merchants pay when collections succeed. Third, FX and cross-border margins for international transactions. Fourth, intelligent recovery, premium features that reduce failed payments. And fifth, enterprise implementations, orchestration, reconciliation, and multi-country setups for global merchants. Let's do a momentum check here for a second. GoCardless has planted itself firmly inside the recurring revenue economy. Subscriptions, invoices, memberships, you name it. They're processing tens of billions each year and are plugged directly into platforms like Xero, Salesforce, Chargebee, and Zuora, which means distribution comes built right in. Merchants don't find GoCardless so much as they open their billing tools and boom, there it is. So what is their moat, you might ask? Global bank-to-bank connectivity around 30-plus countries, high collection reliability, and deep integration into the software that actually runs recurring businesses. They own the most boring part of payments, getting paid on time, and that's why it's defensible. Nobody churns from a product that makes failed payments disappear. That's magic, or plumbing, depending on how you look at it. GoCardless monetizes predictability. Every successful pull is a fee, and every prevented failure is value. That's how GoCardless actually makes money. Have a company you want us to feature, want to know how they make that cash? Drop it in the comments, and maybe we'll feature it. In the meantime, back over to you.
Welcome back to the show. Next week on Wall Street, we will get the PPI inflation print for the month of February. That crosses the tape on Wednesday morning. We also, of course, on Wednesday afternoon, get the second to final FOMC decision under longtime chairman Jerome Powell. Earnings from Dollar Tree, DocuSign, Macy's, and much more. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.